It's the time of rains in India right now, and our forests are wet and the ground is wet, and that has brought out a very interesting animal because they constantly dig the ground for food. This here is the work of a sloth bear. It's quite unusual to think that a bear is digging the ground to such an extent for food, but the sloth bear's main source of food, the main source of protein, is termites, and they're constantly smelling the ground and digging the ground for termites. In fact, when we look for bears in the forest, all we look for is dark black blobs moving in, because they're always looking down and you can't see any other feature about them except the black ball of fur. And here you can see how deep this bear has dug. In fact, if you look closely, you can see the claw marks, and they have huge claws which are curved backwards, and you can see the claw marks and how they've used their claws to dig out this pit. In fact, the mouth parts of a bear are designed perfectly for sucking in termites. Their upper lip is not attached to their gums, so it actually flaps open to cover the nostrils, and they miss out on their upper two incisors. So what happens is their mouth becomes like a straw, and they're able to suck in all the termites with their long snout. And that's how perfectly designed these bears are for feeding on termites. So the bears at this time of the year seem to be feeding heavily on these termites. But apart from termites, the sloth bears tend to feed a lot on fruit. They don't eat meat all that much. There have been records of them scavenging, but unlike the other bears in the world, they actually don't actively hunt for larger prey. What we have here are claw marks of sloth bears all over this tree, and it seems like the bears have climbed this tree to get to the fruit above. And this is a cassia, and there are many such trees that bears go often to for the fruit, and most of the times they have to climb. And despite their clumsy appearance, sloth bears are very good climbers. In fact, there is a theory that says that their name actually comes because they can climb as well as sloths do, but I'm not sure what the origin of the name is. But it's quite interesting to see them up the trees, and I've actually seen them high on top of very tall trees, feeding on honey from beehives, sometimes taking the fruit. So there are trees like the Indian blackberry, there is a mahua, there's many such trees that the bears go to seasonally for the fruit. But despite all the fruit, throughout the year they consistently feed on termites. And that's how a young bear sounds when he's waiting his turn for termites. We're here at this beautiful forest temple. Going by the structure, it looks like a Hindu temple. It's maintained by the tribal community here. But what is interesting about this place is, you can see that it's covered in sloth bear scat. And if you look at this one right here, you can see that the scat is dried up a bit, but it isn't too old. And there's a lot of seeds and also a few exoskeletons of termites here. So the number of droppings of sloth bear here is quite fantastic, but since it's a temple, most of their movement here is going to be in the night, and it's not going to be possible to come here at night to see them. So what we can do is use one of these guys and try and capture them on camera trap. Camera traps, or remote triggered cameras, have always been a very interesting source of information in monitoring wildlife movements. They provide insights into the behavior of animals that we cannot normally witness, and also often help in documenting some elusive species that are very hard to see directly. So the camera seems to be facing the right direction and all seems to be working fine. We're going to leave this in this spot for a couple of days, and hopefully when we come back for it, there'll be some bears in film. Let's see. I am particularly interested in capturing one specific bear. She is a mother and she has two tiny cubs which she carries around on her back. We have seen her recently in the vicinity of the temple, and I really hope we can get her on camera against this interesting backdrop. We retrieved the camera a few days later and were really excited about checking the result. Facing the temple. Our national bird, the Majestic Peacock, was the first to show up. The local people were there in the evening to offer their prayers, and as soon as they left, the spotted deer took over. There were many shots of spotted deer, peacocks, birds, and people. And then, on the third night, a huge tusker appeared. He decided to walk past the camera trap and bent the pole on his way by mistake. And that was the end of the experiment. No more shots on this camera trap, and sadly, no bears. We did set up another camera and captured a young bear waltzing down the path. But it looks like we'll have to wait a lot longer for the bears in the temple courtyard.